Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Ryan, and today we're diving into the world of productivity and personal development with a summary of Cal Newport's groundbreaking book, Deep Work: Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. On the banks of Lake Zurich, in a village called Bollingen, there is a small stone castle with 4 towers. Its story starts in 1922 when Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist, bought the land to build a retreat. Hiding from the busy city life, he worked intensely on his analytical psychology, which eventually became one of the most influential schools of thought of the 20th century. And even though there are lots of reasons why Jung became so successful, the space and freedom away from his city chaos let him develop a skill that definitely played a key role in his accomplishment: deep work. The term deep work was not made by Jung, though. The author of its concept is Cal Newport, who described it in his book Deep Work: Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. Newport defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. According to him, although there's evidence that many influential individuals go deep, this doesn't convince millions of others. Deep work is not popular. It requires effort, and it's way more comfortable to stay shallow. So therefore, this increases the value of deep work. Those who choose to prioritize deep work over shallow work have many doors to open in front of them. However, this is easier said than done. The world around us is full of distractions, and it's extremely hard to resist them. Deep Work by Cal Newport is made of 2 parts. The first part explains the idea of deep work, while the second one suggests strategies that help adopt this behavior. We'll start with Chapter 1. Chapter 1 was labeled, Deep Work is Valuable. With the rise of digital technology, labor markets have changed dramatically. In their book, Race Against the Machine, Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee say that we live in the era of the Great Restructuring, a time when technologies are advancing at a high speed while the skills of ordinary workers fall behind. This creates a gap between human and technological resources, and it means that employers will more likely hire smart machines than people. The good news is that while people risk being thrown into this new economic reality, there are still some groups of workers who have a potential to win. The high-skill workers. These are workers who are able to work with complex machines and get valuable results. An example of such a worker is Nate Silver, an American statistician who analyzes data and makes forecasts using the STATA system, a tool that requires a lot of learning. For people like him, machines are not obstacles, but rather a means that help achieve goals. The second group is the superstars. Emails and virtual meeting software make it possible to hire the best workers instead of people who are available because they live next to your office. For example, if you need a programmer, you could hire David Hassan, one of the most valued in the world. And the fact that he's on a different continent wouldn't mean anything to your company. But, as Newport pointed out, this would definitely mean something to a less skilled programmer who live right in your area. Group 3 is the owners. The Great Restructuring is a great time to have capital. According to the bargaining theory, when money is made through capital investment and labor, the rewards are proportional to the input. Digital technologies reduce the need for human labor, so the importance of an investment into intelligent machines increases. As Newport says, there is there is no secret. The easy way to generate large amounts of capital doesn't exist. However, the other two categories are relatively accessible. You need to know how to work creatively with new machines, and how to be an expert in your field. This way, he determines two abilities needed to thrive in our new economy. The ability to quickly master hard things. Technologies change very quickly, so not only will you have to do hard things, you will have to learn constantly and also do it quickly, again and again. The ability to produce at an elite level. Mastering skills is not sufficient. You need to actually produce things. Newport explains that these two abilities are impossible to develop without deep work, and that this is a serious reason to start practicing it. How does one cultivate these abilities? It's here that we arrive at the central thesis of the book. The two core abilities just described depend on your ability to perform deep work. If you haven't mastered this foundational skill, you'll struggle to learn hard things or produce at an elite level. Chapter 2 is titled, Deep Work is Rare. In recent years, continuous trends in the business sphere have appeared. The first trend is an open office concept. This policy was adopted by Facebook, as well as other Silicon Valley companies. By having people work in a common space, leaders hoped that they would learn from one another. The second trend is instant messaging. It has nothing to do with chatting. Its goal is to raise productivity and save customers time. Finally, the third trend is maintaining a social media presence. For example, the New York Times encourages its editors, photographers, and writers to maintain a Twitter account. These three trends are very paradoxical, says Newport. Open space, instant messaging, and social media presence do not promote deep work. But, as we see from Chapter 1, deep work is exactly what helps individuals work effectively. Yet organizations do not support it. What they support is a culture of connectivity. But why is this so? The reason, in Newport's opinion, is the principle of least resistance, which is acting in the way that is easiest at the moment. Being connected with our colleagues, you can easily get answers to all your questions by sending a message or simply talking to the person sitting next to you. Besides, connectivity can help organize our time. Think about meetings. They can force you to take actions, not having to manage your obligations by yourself. However, there is the other side of the coin. The principle of least resistance supports work cultures that save us from the short-term discomfort of concentration and planning, at the expense of long-term satisfaction and the production of real value. There is another reason why people tend to avoid deep work: the absence of indicators of productive work. Job ambiguity, which often accompanies knowledge workers, leads to making an impression of being busy. As Newport explains, people turn to the mindset of industrial age, when productivity could be physically seen and measured. In the reality of the modern knowledge worker, this takes the form of sending and answering emails, scheduling meetings, and doing other visible things. But, of course, this doesn't help you achieve deep work. Finally, deep work is seriously hindered by the cult of the internet. It is based on quality and mastery, and this is one of the non-technical and even old-fashioned. As we can see, there's nothing substantial about distracting behaviors, and nothing flawed about deep work. Appreciating this helps you realize that you can, and should, enhance your deep work ability, says the author. Chapter 3 is titled, Deep Work is Meaningful. In this chapter, Newport discusses deep work from the viewpoint of three arguments: neurological, psychological, philosophical. A neurological argument for depth. Going through serious life drama as if she was diagnosed with cancer. A science writer, Winfred Gallagher, discovered an interesting connection between attention and happiness. Instead of focusing on suffering and pain, she decided to focus on movies, walks, and a 5:30 martini, and noticed that this worked better than she could ever think. This period of her life, expected to be in the dark, appeared to be quite pleasant. Management of attention worked a miracle. Our problem, says Newport, is the assumption that circumstance always determines how we feel. However, our world view is constructed by our brain. This means that we can choose what to concentrate on. It applies to work as well, even more, as the author says. A workday driven by the shallow neurological perspective is likely to be a draining and upsetting day, even if most of the shallow things that capture your attention seem harmless or fun. A psychological argument for depth. Most people erroneously assume that happiness comes from relaxation. This is not true. Free time is unstructured, and it can be hard to organize it and actually do something you can enjoy. Work, on the contrary, can give you mental pleasure. Goals, challenges, and rules encourage you to get really involved and feel a sense of accomplishment. In other words, work creates a state of flow. Csikszentmihalyi, I'm probably butchering that. The psychologist who first defined the idea describes flow as a state when a person's body or mind is stretched to its limit in a voluntary effort or to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. And a state of flow definitely falls into the category of deep work. A philosophical argument for depth. Descartes' skepticism, which ushered in the age of enlightenment, was based on a belief that individuals seeking the truth surpass God or the king. People had to identify what's meaningful and what's not, which caused a lack of order and sacredness. Dreyfus and Kelly, the authors of All Things Shiny, explain that there is still a way to reopen the lost sacredness. The thing is, you should not try to find a meaning outside of individuals or things, but rather accept that the meaning is already there. For example, a wheelwright shouldn't decide what part of the wood is valuable. He should know that the wood is valuable by itself. Cultivating an appreciation for what you do uncovers the meaning, and extracting the meaning is what deep work is about. Thanks for watching. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss any other videos, and I will be releasing part 2 soon, so follow to stay updated.